Ladies and gentlemen, and people of all genders, because we are inclusive here on 21.6 The Net, bridging civil tension. It is 9 a.m. on a Friday. Time for your hosts, Kent Jones and Phil Wallace, brought to you by the wonderful support of Natural Therapy Wellness Center. Massage therapy, reflexology, acupuncture, everything that helps you feel better. McHenryMassage.com, 815-385-8190. Gentlemen, good morning.
Yeah.
Morning.
How are you guys?
Good. Of course, you're stuck in the net here. Is the bridge burning? You'll see the chair to my right, your left is empty. However, the guy to my left on screen is down in the great state of Texas. Phil Wallace, how are you, brother?
Deep in the heart of
And that's why he doesn't have a singing career, everybody. All right. Phil, what's on your mind? A lot happened this week. There's a lot. That's why I say, is the bridge burning?
Is the bridge burning? Interesting week. Interesting week to say the least. I saw one post that talked about this is the only place where you can watch a trial for an unarmed man being killed to have it interrupted by another breaking case of another unarmed man being killed. And just do a lot all at once on all angles.
Yeah, well, there is. So my question is it a racial thing? What's the real issue? Is it racial, or is there something else that started the fire?
And this is with me even trying to be reserved on just race. But I think what this week allowed us to see was so many situations where we have we did witness the mass shooting a few weeks back, and we saw how mass shooters in other situations were handled versus either a 13-year-old in Chicago, or when other races aren't complying right away, how they're treated versus to Army lieutenant active duty in his fatigues and his car, pepper spray, and so even with me trying not to, play the race card, I just don't understand how the treatment or how the actions are happening when I try to justify it any other way.
Right.
I don't get that part. I'm okay, anybody can get shot in a line of duty. We've talked about this a number of times. I respect what officers have to do, and I would never want to be on the front lines in those situations where you think that the suspect has a gun. But if you're a 26-year-old veteran in the force and you don't know the difference between a police gun and a taser.
Well, and accidents, quote unquote, accidents do happen, right?
Happen, but they say they put your gun is on your stronger hand, your taser is on your right. The hold of the two weapons is completely different. The weight of the two weapons is significantly different.
Yep.
So when you throw that into the mix over a traffic stop, I could see if this is, you catch them on the front line selling a bunch of drugs and guns are everywhere. It's a traffic stop.
Yep. So if and the video that I saw, right, was very short for that. And we're talking about Dante, whatever, right?
Yep, Dante
Right. And the video that I saw it was very short, up till you hear the gun go off, and then oh my God, I shot him. Right. Now, with police officers, and I want everybody to know this, with police officers, yes, there is due process. We don't have to give them due process. That's our ability. The courts have to give the officer due process. Right. And if an officer does make a mistake, which they do, it can be, you can be tried for that. I mean, that's what's going to happen with this lady. She's being charged with second-degree manslaughter. Now, and again, accidents do happen. I didn't see the before, the dash cam before, all those good things. Hey Gary from Singapore, appreciate you being here. But she was the backup to the gentleman who pulled him over,
Right.
which that creates a whole different scenario, where her job is to have his six, as they would call it, have his
Right.
back, and not be right up on, right. So, from my understanding, I'm not a police officer, never been trained as one. Right. Just from my understanding, but she was right in the mix of things. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of different layers, I think, to the whole thing. The sad thing is that a life was lost that didn't necessarily have to be lost. Now, at the same time, there's always, hey, don't resist arrest. Don't resist arrest. Now, my issue is I don't necessarily think that's a race issue. There have been 213 people shot already this year, and killed by police officers. Again, I don't know the story on all those. I just don't. And that from where I'm getting this at Statista is saying that's ahead of schedule. There's more people that have been shot now and killed by police officers this year at this time. 50 of them have been white, 30 of them have been black, 20 of them Hispanic, one is other, and 112 are unknown.
They were from
That's
space.
what I said, Phil. Unknown.
Wait,
okay.
what? How do you...
Now, yeah, unknown. I don't know, right? So, so the interesting thing is, to me, is as everybody should be concerned. Not whites, not Hispanics, not the others.
Right.
Everybody should be concerned.
Not the unknowns.
Right. Not the unknowns. Right. But everybody should. This is an issue, and
yes, Mary, space aliens.
Yes, we could be. You never know.
Very much anticipating that they were Plutonians.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I've never been a police officer, nor do I want to be one. And I don't know. When we roll back here to Chicago, Phil, I guess the question I would ask with that young man is, in the city, in that area where it's riddled with gangs, what's the average age of a gang member? They're teenagers, right?
Right. I mean, it's 13. Yep.
And the police saw the weapon, and then the boy has the weapon for protection because he's out at 2 a.m. That's right. And on our show, the Bare Facts on Guns, that's what Tom will say. You have it. It's a shield. It's not a sword. Okay. So with that said, I got to believe that this young man in a bad neighborhood has it perhaps for protection.
Right.
Okay. However, then he runs. And now there's guilt or whatever. Now, to me, as a white guy, I say that. To you, as a black man, you may say, nope, they saw the gun, I'm going to get shot. I don't know.
I mean, again, coming from Crystal Lake and obviously going to college and seeing college parties, I saw lots of white kids run from police officers. None of them have bullet holes. Did
they have a gun?
In South Carolina, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair, right? So it's
at the same time with the social climate, and if I'm a kid growing up now, and I'm seeing how police officers, even at my age now, seeing how police officers are treating people who are in those situations.
Hold on.
Okay, for instance, an Army lieutenant who served is terrified of a traffic stop to the point where his hands are shaking and you see him on film saying, honestly, sir, I'm just scared of what you'll do.
Yep.
So if a military veteran who's served is afraid of police officers, what do you think a 13-year-old kid is?
Well, sure. But I don't know if that has anything to do with race.
No. I'm just saying as far, well,
Right.
kind of, because there's another post that said it's safer to be a white man who just murdered multiple people with a weapon than it is to be an African American on a traffic stop. That's not my post. That's one that I shared.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, like, it's because certain people are apprehended and certain people, things happened in the line of duty for.
Sure.
And it appears that it's not as safe. Again, not my words, it's just what people are posting. But to see where they're coming from is these things continue to happen, and it's seemingly to be one side more than the other.
Yep. So, and just a shout out to our brother out there in Cameroon. We've made it to Cameroon. Cameroon. Now, but here's and anytime we talk about race, and that's what the bridge is all about, we have to be able to compare apples to apples.
Right.
Okay. Law enforcement wants to apprehend, and when I say that, I'm talking FBI and things like that. They want to apprehend that mass shooter to try to get in their head to find out why they did it, right, so that they might be able to prevent them. That's a whole different thing than a traffic stop and a local police officer. I'm not trying to get into that person's head on a traffic stop, right? So, and I will tell people, I've been pulled over for having things hanging from my rear view mirror.
Really?
Yes.
I have a thing hanging from my rear view mirror right now. Maybe I should take it down.
Yeah. So there are people who say that, Dante got pulled over for, I don't know, but I've also been, as a white guy, pulled over for having things hanging from my mirror, truthfully. And then I had to take them off and pay a thick and fries. Stupid. Anyway, I didn't get shot, though. I'm still alive.
So even with, like, again, I really tried to look at this week and genuinely tried to take the week away from just the black card.
Sure.
Anybody can get pulled over for having something hanging from the rearview mirror. As you just said, that was your personal experience.
Yep.
I'm fine with that. I obviously have my experiences with being, but whatever, that's fine. But when you tell me that you didn't understand after 26 years on the force, which was the difference between your gun and your taser, that's the part that sounds suspicious.
No, yeah, and Salvador says, but you were treated differently most of my life, Sal.
Yeah.
Well, right. Kent's a little special. So.
Yeah, that's right. Now, and he says the cause of the stop is not the issue. That is true, but I've heard it out there in arguments. He should never have been stopped. He got stopped because he had an air freshener hanging from his rear. I don't know the whole circumstance of why he got stopped, but what I'm saying is I've been stopped for that reason.
I think, okay, so when you're hearing that, as far as he shouldn't have been stopped for something hanging from his rearview mirror, it stems from a long line, and it's shown in data, and I can get that to you, where things are planted on minorities from a traffic stop.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
Tail light being out. This, did you know I pulled? Well, you have this. Yep. I got asked, is your friend there with you on her own free will? Sir, I'm the DD. I'm actually helping someone out right now, and there's two other people in the car. That came from a tag light, which then turned into there's been cars broken into the neighborhood. I fit the description, like, from a tag light. So when you're hearing, well, this came from something hanging, there's a long history of people being accused and arrested and all sorts of things from these minuscule reasons to be pulling someone over, which is just looking for a reason to search someone's car.
Yeah, and let me just say what Gary says out there. He said over in Singapore, coming from this side of the pond where guns equal death sentence, I can't comprehend the situation where one needs a gun for self-protection. But that's me. And listen, I love Singapore for that. I've even said that in conversations to people. You want to get rid of gun violence? If you're caught illegally with a gun or you discharge that gun illegally, death sentence. And not 25 years down the road. Don't sit in the hothouse. You're dead. You're found guilty. You're dead. Right? People change their tune a little bit. Right? Now, and I want people to know, I don't own guns. You own a gun. That's your right. I'm all for them. That's fine. I don't play God, and I hate hitting a squirrel in my car. Right? I haven't watched that viral video of that 13-year-old. and I won't. And here's why, Phil. PTSD is a real thing. Now I can't post something from an ex-president without it being taken down on social media from fact checkers, but social media will allow somebody being shot and killed to play. And listen, that PTSD is everybody. Now every teenage kid from the city is scared to death that I'm the next one, right? And I couldn't imagine getting that out of my mind. I mean, it's psychologically it's a thing, and truthfully, so we have to look at also the narrative and what's being pushed and by who.
I think the MI Next has been there long before this case. And I also think that this case helped because something that me and you have talked about for a number of times. Where's the footage? Okay, well, now that we actually have the footage and it didn't take 2 weeks to get out there,
Yep.
you see drop it, put your hands up, and the kid do this, and then him hit the ground after being shot. So then all of well, he didn't comply. Well, he didn't have his hands up. Well, he moved. Well, there's no, like, all that's out the window, and you're now seeing that everything that was justified in other conversations is removed in this situation because you saw him comply, you saw him try to put his hands up, and he was still murdered.
And again, I didn't. I'm only going by hearsay of what I see because I didn't watch it. Right.
Okay. But then at the same time, you're saying that these kids, the PTSD, as far as seeing this, understand that the kid was probably shot because of PTSD from a police officer, and what
absolutely that's might have been why he ran. Yeah.
He's told about Chicago because he's like, oh, it's every street's a street until you're told that it's Elm Street. Okay, then on Elm Street because things happen here.
Yeah.
But when it's Chicago, then all of a sudden killing a 13-year-old kid is justified because, well, we all know the stats about the crime in Chicago. So of course he had to protect himself. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's a kid. When my friends wanted to walk to Country Donuts in Crystal Lake and they decided to kick mailboxes and walk there drunk, none of them who were illegally underage drinking, breaking curfew, and vandalizing were shot by police officers when they were apprehended.
Yeah, no, and I get it, and that's why I say, yeah, that PTSD. Now, if there weren't viral videos and things, would he have ran? Maybe not. I don't know, right? So, I mean, that's why I'm saying is, what's the narrative? What are people watching? What are they seeing? What are they being taught? Right? And we have to. We can't not bring these things to attention. We can't, you know what I'm saying? 213 people. And I've had conversations with people who say, wow, I would have thought it would have been a lot higher because there's a lot of bad people out there. Right. And there's not a lot of police officers out there. So I would have thought maybe by this time this year, that would have been more. I've had that conversation with people. So, there has to be an understanding, I think, to your point is it's an issue, and it's not just a black issue. This is a everybody issue, and there has to be different training. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now in the city of Chicago, they have a no chase. Police can't chase. If that there's no chase law in Illinois. They don't want high speed chases because if I'm chasing this, okay, so Dante gets in his car and drives off, and I chase him. And he hits a minivan and kills everybody in that minivan. Who's at fault? Right? Now it's the police he was fleeing for his life. So it was the police who chased him. So in Illinois, there is a no chase. If they speed off, you let them go. And you use your radios, right? So because and that is because that actually did happen. So there are ways, right? So there has to be something, some way, right, to be able to train better, to fix the issue, and that is police brutality, right? And I'm not making excuses. I mean, the interesting thing is, and here's what I want, and I'll bring up to you, Ashley Babbitt. Do you know that name?
I do not.
All right. How about the police officer that shot Ashley Babbitt? We don't know. So Ashley Babbitt was the lady who got shot trying to go through the window at the Capitol, shot and killed by a police officer, DC police officer. And there's nothing. And that police officer's name was never released. The police officer is nothing was charged, right? And many people in the Black Lives Matter movement, in many movements, right, is, well, she shouldn't have been there. She was in an insurrection. She was, so, and that's what we hear all the time as well, right? From white people. Well, should never have resisted arrest. Well, should never have done this.
Right. So that's where me and you had this conversation with the Stop Asian Hate, because when situation after situation, occurrence after occurrence, you're told something in order to justify your people being killed.
Yep.
And then when one of your own is killed, I'm not saying like a you or us or whatever. Like,
right.
Like when one of your own gets killed, it's like, well, why don't you guys have our back? Oh, no, comply, remember? Shouldn't have been there, remember? Hands up. Like, and I don't necessarily condone that type of response, but there's going to be people who don't have the patience for it.
Right.
And I hear things like that. And that's what we talked about in the Stop Asian Hate. Is like, okay, well, let's get along before things happen to you too, and then you want us to help. Let's all be a team. Let's stop police violence towards everybody, like and what we've said, towards everybody, because when it stops being brown, when it stops being minorities, when it stops being whatever, and you're targeted as well, you're going to look for all the help from the same people that you justify these behaviors to. Case in point with the Capitol. Hey, something's wrong with the government. Oh, no, respect the government. They would never do anything. Oh, these votes are bad. Well, we told you that the government could have been corrupt, and you told us to shut up and respect the government. Like, pick one. Are they perfect or are they not?
Yep. And that's what I want to bring up now. We brought up a couple of weeks ago that they were running down in Streeterville or whatever, and a 21-month-old baby got shot in the head. I don't know if the baby died or whatever, but there were no protests over that. There was nobody picketing outside of anybody's house, and that's a black life, right?
Right.
I didn't hear about the dead baby.
I don't know if she died or not.
Oh,
but it was a Wild West car chase, and a lot of people were shooting, and a 21-month-old took a bullet to the head. Right. Now, again, CNN doesn't take that and run with it, right? So I want, what I really want people to understand is question everything. Why is this blowing up all over the media? What is their agenda? What is their narrative, right? If we want to mend things, then to Phil's point, he said several times, you can't be hypocritical, right?
Pick a standard.
You listen. There was another mass shooting in Indianapolis last night, right? And guy kills 8 people and then kills himself. Man, that's messed up. So what are we going after? And instead of trying to separate us from, oh, your people, my people, this, that, and the third, we should be locking arms and saying, holy shit, this is wrong. There's a lot wrong here, people, and it's not a black thing. It's not an Asian thing. It's not a white thing. We got to figure this out and come together as people, And until we can figure that out, that's there was also there was also a gunman at San Antonio Airport who was just shot dead. There you go, breaking news right here. So the issue is, number one, we as a people have to become less numb to these things, if that makes sense. And Phil, you've said it before. I should be equally as pissed off at this 13-year-old's life being taken away as I am the 50 white people who've been shot, right? But somewhere, a majority of the people in this country go, they're doing their job.
Chicago, it's just what they do.
Right. Yeah. So how do you get there? How do you when the media keeps blasting all this stuff into our faces, and everywhere we turn, there's another black person killed? Now, from the statistics that I got, 30, well, now probably 32 black people have been killed by police officers to 50 white. Now, I know it's a population thing, and yes, more blacks are per population. However, it's still 50 white people. When are we going to get mad at that? When are we going to say that's not right? Instead of,
So
well,
that's what picking another standard is, and it's because, and this is from what I'm seeing as far as being in the comment section. The people who are set more so on justifying the killing of minorities would rather pay more attention to my number is higher than your number instead of looking at population percentages, and instead of saying, well, it's bad that my number is this high too.
yeah, but I will say this, and I've said it again, is blacks will never be the majority ever, because the way they count the census. So I can take an application for a mortgage, and you can click that you're Hispanic, Mexican, and then white. So you can be a white Latino, or you can be an what it says is African American Latino, right? So there is that, and Gary says over here in Singapore, we're seeing all the news from the U.S. every day, and the general consensus is that it's a common U.S. problem as compared to other countries. And you're right. I've never traveled outside the United. I went to Canada once, I think. I've never traveled outside the United States, so I don't know. So, yeah, you could be right. I mean, there may not be that problem. I mean, what the problem? Racism, or are you saying police brutality, police violence? But Sal says systemic poverty. Blow that up a little bit for us, Sal. But so the odd thing is, it's always, but 30 lives is 30 lives, 50 lives is 50 lives, right? 112 unknown. I mean, is 112 unknown lives that possibly didn't need to have lost their life.
Right.
I don't know the circumstances for all of them, right? Okay, so he's yeah. So Gary says gun crimes. So and that's the front. And I'm not trying to belittle, and I'm not trying to make Black Lives Matter any less. I'm just, to me, where I am in my life as a good Christian dude, is a life is a life is a life. And if it shouldn't have been taken, it shouldn't have been taken. Right. All the lives of the 8 people who died when they showed up to work at FedEx last night shouldn't have been taken.
Right.
I don't play God though, right? So whether they, I don't know what they were, right? In Colorado, that mass shooting at the grocery store, those lives shouldn't have been taken.
Right.
We'll get upset with that. We'll want to make new gun laws, but we don't try to correct or make new laws for police brutality. What we will do is defund the police. That'll show them. We'll give them less money. Really, we should dump more money into them to give them better training, better psychological training, more ways to ease a situation than pulling the trigger or pressing the trigger. I guess right. I'm under pushing the trigger, I guess, right? So what are 2 different circumstances, Sal? Systemic poverty? You got to help us out, buddy. Hey, you know what? Put the link up there. Maybe Sal could come in and talk to us. But so the idea, and Phil, it's hard to talk with a lot of people about it, because the people that I talk to about it, their first stance is don't resist. Dante shouldn't have resisted. He should have just sat there, but he resisted. Now, again, I didn't see everything. I don't know if he was provoked. I don't know, right? But that's what happens, and I know well, that's okay, right? Yeah, no, yes. Sal says FedEx and police shootings. Yeah, absolutely. We gotta compare oranges to oranges and apples to apples, but those lives still shouldn't have been taken.
Well, and that's the thing, because through the National Safety Council, we know that on an average year, 2019 in particular, 2020 was less because there were far less people actually at work. There were over 20,870 workplace violence incidents in 2019.
Wow.
Resulting in 454 fatalities. Based on those numbers, it's far more dangerous to go to work than it is to have an interaction with a police officer. So it's interesting that, again, those are not apples to apples, oranges
Right.
to oranges things that you can really compare there. But those numbers are there; they're available. But yeah, it's not an apples to apples thing.
Yeah. Now, again, yeah, I would put my head out there and say that trying to get into a vehicle and starting it up while under arrest is resisting arrest, says Gary. Yep. But does that mean the death sentence for you right there?
Right. And I mean, this is the whole thing about the crazy week. So if you wouldn't have resisted, he would have been shot. Okay. Well, the one guy had his arms out, was still pepper sprayed in his car with his dog, while in army fatigues, showing that he was not a threat. He was just terrified that you have your gun out on a traffic stop. And
Yep.
the other person who didn't resist, when you said freeze and he did stop and he put his hands up, he still had a hole in his chest. So this is where, does it really mean that if you comply right away that you're safe? No.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't justify the shootings in the bigger
Doesn't
picture.
justify the
Right.
shooting. I mean, like, if you don't comply, you're still supposed to find a way to arrest this person, and it's not your job to be executioner. And like we've talked about multiple times, there are thousands of incidents where people who aren't complying right away, who aren't minorities, are still arrested.
Yeah. So here's, and I got a lot of friends who are police officers. I appreciate them because I wouldn't do that job, right? And obviously I don't, right? Now, the deal is, though, and we've said it, and other police have said it, and they've been on camera saying it, we're the biggest gang out there, the police say. Now, a lot of stuff going on. What you have to do, Phil, because there's a lot of stuff going on out there, is you have to cover yourself. So listen, make it seem like it's an accident. Taser, taser, taser while you have your gun in your hand.
Right.
And we can always say it was an accidental discharge.
You can hear her say on camera that she thought it was a taser. They get coached on what to say.
That's what I mean, right? So I'm not trying to say that that's the way it is. I just want people to look at things and understand and not get caught up in just maybe your point of view, right? Hey, you're in the Minneapolis area and it's a ticking time bomb right now, depending on what happens with this Floyd trial. So much so that Black Lives Matters and other people said, if the wrong thing comes down, expect buildings to burn. Expect the city to burn. So we need you to cover your asses during this time. If there's anything, right? I mean, these conversations could happen. Well, it can't be that far out of, you know what I mean? It can't be that far out. Oh man, Sal, how are you, buddy? I thought that those were gold chains, Sal.
There,
How's it going, guys?
Oh man, Sal, you're in the. I thought that those. Hey, you got to turn off your Facebook or whatever you were watching.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, so.
Now you're where? You're in Dallas too?
Yes, sir. Who's
You
two?
guys should meet up. You guys should meet up for lunch.
Oh, you know what? I definitely want to meet up with you. What's your name again, Phil?
yeah. I'm in Grapevine.
Are you great? Because there is a gentleman, I won't mention his name without permission, but he actually, African-American descent, veteran, also a police officer who goes around the country training police officers. I've been wanting to get him on the show.
We would love to have him.
He's an awesome, just from a motivational, from a training, just all around nice guy.
Yeah.
You're up in Grapevine?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All right, maybe we'll have lunch and have a chit chat one day.
Message when we get out here. Message me on the inbox and get my number. And
Yes.
Set it up while I'm here.
All right. So
I'll connect you guys with a text.
awesome. So let me get my gold chains away.
Yeah.
But I'm a devil's advocate because I see it from both sides. I've experienced from one side, but I know police officers who are family members, good friends. I grew up in an area where they're primarily police officers or firefighters.
Right.
But what I've noticed is, and I really saw a clip that says you don't want to get the way to interact with the police officer if you get stopped. Be respectful. It doesn't matter. You can be as respectful as you want, and you know which one I'm talking about, Kent, because you probably saw it.
Yeah.
It's not about being respectful. Some of these officers have PTS. They have that post-traumatic syndrome. We don't know what they've encountered in their lives. I can tell you from the officers and family members that I've talked to, they've shared a little bit of what happens to them. But on the same case, Kent, you said, well, if these videotapes weren't going, or these streams weren't going viral, or these videos, then kids would not be so susceptible of running and doing and being afraid of police officers. We forget that this has been going on for over 200 years.
Oh yeah.
These young kids have been being talked to, now men, now grandparents. They've been talking to about, hey, this is the way you should comport yourself. Be careful. Something could happen. And in some cases, it does happen, in many cases. So it's traumatic on both sides. But then my comment, and I'm just going really quick to summarize my comments. Systemic poverty. Why is one, why do we feel that like African Americans, Latinos as well, included in that, not as much, but quite high numbers. Why are they running? Why are they so fearful? Because they've witnessed things. Not only have they had to talk, they've witnessed things. Right. Why are police officers so skittish to pull that trigger? Because they've had guns pulled on them, because there has been some ambushes, whether we want to believe it or not. We need to come together. We need to have, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm telling you what is driving this. It's not something because of viral videos. It's not because, kids shouldn't have been out on the street at 2 a.m. Well, those kids' circumstances are different than ours.
That's right.
Sometimes
they in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're coming home from work. You had to work, right?
Or not only that, they get beat at home. They don't want to be at home. They want to go home and go to sleep. And they may be carrying a gun because the streets are so dangerous.
Yeah.
We're not saying that they're not out there going to do something, and we're not saying that they are going to do something or not. We don't know their circumstances. In systemic poverty, kids in most cases have to fend for themselves. There is not that same family unit that you have in your home or I have in my home. I have friends that did come from the streets, and thank God nothing happened to them, where maybe 6 of their friends did fall to either are in prison or are no longer with us, because it's the mindsets are completely different. You can have 2 kids of the same age in the same city having completely different circumstances, having different role models.
Well, sure. and but to the point is, we're trying. When I say we, the media is trying to they're trying to put a Band-Aid on a symptom instead of trying to figure out a solution. Hey, this is bad all around for everybody, right? And I don't know a single person. I don't know a single person who, when they see those lights go off in their rearview mirror, don't get a little bit nervous and scared. Now, at the same time, many of us don't fear for our life, but we all get that same anxiety, right? Like, oh shit, There's been several times driving, before marijuana was legal, where you're like in a car with somebody going, huh, I hope we don't get pulled over. Hope they don't have the canine unit, right? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, there's so much that, I mean, the issue is the training. The issue is, yes, these guys, and a lot of them are old military guys too, right? That maybe I was a sniper over in the desert, So yeah, my aim is good. Listen, the police officer who shot this 13-year-old, he could handle a weapon. One shot straight through the heart. He can handle a weapon. I mean, that's tough, right? Done.
Right, but by the same token, yes, you have PTS, but the thing is, they've had training. They've had training. But again, you have one kid. There's 3 police officers. I'm not downplaying the situation,
Right.
But at the same time, you have 3 police officers there. Yes, he's getting back into a car. He's going to take off. That can become there's so many ways to look at it.
Oh, sure.
The way to look at it is, hey, you have a scared kid. Yes, he did something wrong. They found out he had some kind of prior. Police officers, we don't know what they've gone through as well. I mean, yes, we need more training. We need not only police officers, but the thing is, what is the right answer? We don't know. You're saying, well, there's more coverage on one demographic than on another demographic. Yeah, but most of those shootings are done by one demographic to another demographic. It's not their same demographic. So that's where it's coming through. And what was it, in 2016, there was 598 deaths or something, shootings by law enforcement. 98 of those were Hispanic. Nothing was ever brought up. To this day, I don't have him here. So it's not a question of being showing who or who not. It is about, yes, the proper training. The funding's not going to help. Like you said, more training. But at the same time, you can have all the training and all you want to do is go home to your family and kids. I know many police officers that have not made that because they didn't, they took it too lightly.
Yeah,
they didn't take it lightly.
That's the situation wrong.
Right. But the thing is, so are these kids. These kids are like, hey, you need to be careful because you know what? We've experienced this. Your father's experienced, your his grandfather's experienced it, your cousins. Be careful.
Yep. So Shayna says, and I want to thank Shayna. I couldn't in good conscience tell an inner city person of color how to process how they feel about police. Looks pretty scary to me. Absolutely. Why can't tech help us out with decision making in the moment? I mean, if they can get cars to avoid running into people, over how hard could it be? And I thought the same thing. Why isn't there a drone chasing this kid? Why, you know what I'm saying? There's different ways to do this, right? I mean, Chris Rock, if you ever watch his bid on, just make a police officer run, right? And you're not going to like the way that it ends, right? So there is that. Now, the U.S. Department of Justice numbers, 10,085,210 arrests in 2020. Of those, 7 million were white, 0.6 were black. That's 9,681,560. 403,60, 650 fall under different race classes or are racially unidentified. So there was a lot of arrests. In 2019, there were only 697,195 officers of the law, all branches. There were less in 2020. So I think what that's saying is a lot of people out there, a lot of bad guys out there, not a lot of police. Right?
Correct. That was the point of those numbers and what I was finding.
But
And
sometimes those
one of the people that Kent was talking to, when I would have actually expected the number of people to have been shot by officers of the law to be phenomenally higher than it has been. In fact, I would have expected that rather than, how many did you say? 200 and what?
213 with the numbers I had.
Yeah, I would have added another comma in there too. I would have expected 2,130. Would have just been my thought. That, okay, based on population and number of officers that we have, that would not have surprised me at all. What surprises me is that it is so few. Doesn't, and I'm not saying that that makes it any better. It just surprises me that it is so few, and that it is so phenomenally few. 213 out of even fewer officers out of 2020 and them coming back does not, to me, represent something indicative of a police brutality problem. It represents what Sal's just been talking about, something wherein things can be done much, much better insofar as training and support and awareness and evaluation of candidates, which, again, not an easy job, but that's what those numbers are indicative of to me.
But what you're neglecting, those are deaths. Those are not just gunshots. So we don't know how many. We don't know how many they've shot. We don't know how many they've beaten. Right?
And those arrests are arrests.
Even still, those are arrests. So out of those arrests,
but those arrests may not be justifiable arrest. I was actually taken once. On my first date, I was taking out a young lady who was the first chair of a violin, very prim and proper, and I get pulled over. We're going to dinner, headlight. I'm driving a van. I'm driving my dad's van, all right? And all of a sudden, I give them my driver's license, and they're like, okay, get on the hood. I'm like, why? Get on the hood. They didn't tell me anything. Once I'm in the car, you're wanted for murder. I'm like, excuse me? You're wanted for murder. They took me in. They put me in jail. They started doing whatever they had to do. About 5 hours later, first I'm like, can I give her cab money to go home? They're like, no.
I was going to say, did you pick her with the bill?
She never called me back. Let me say that.
Yeah.
Turned out to be the wrong person. Similar name, not the same name. Gentleman was 6'2", and if you know me, I'm by no means close to 6'2". Yeah. And just because we had similar names. So things happen.
Your dad's van.
And it was my dad's van. My dad doesn't have anything. It was just, and the guy was about 5 years older than I was. Had nothing. It's just similar names. This is what happens. I'm not saying that this is back 25 years ago, 20 years ago, but the numbers aren't always accurate. Yeah, we may have a larger number of arrests, but it doesn't mean that they were justifiable arrest. And I'm not taking anything away from the police officers because, man, that is a tough job. How do you distinguish one from the other? But there's ways of doing it.
And again, that to me, Sal, just drives home the point of those numbers. I've been arrested myself for, the story doesn't matter, but it was not really, it was in no way justifiable, but it doesn't matter. But again, you have comparatively so few people trying to manage the law and order of a population across our country of over 300 million. And again, knock out about 100 for children who they're not going to, if they're under 13 or so, whatever, you can knock off about that. But we've got far too few officers who are managing and doing a job that is incredibly dangerous. And again, not justifying any of what has occurred, but reemphasizing far too few people who need much, much better training and much, much better hiring evaluation in the process. And that's my opinion, no one else's. By the way, is Pete.
Roughest first date ever.
I'm telling you, man.
Oh,
Holy
man,
cow.
right there.
You don't say she
Only date.
Now, but here's the thing, and let's go to Dante, and I'm just a person, but you're in a volatile time in that city. You're in a huge, huge volatile time in that city. To me, being a 26-year veteran of anything, I'm covering. I mean, literally, I'm walking on eggshells. And that's got to be the right.
But this is
yet
what
here we go.
about. This is where we talked about Kent, where we talk about, pay attention to the puppet master, right? The things behind the scenes, like as you said many times, and we'll do that for a certain group. But you have, like you said, a terrible time in your city, and you're going to shoot another black person while there's a nationwide trial going on.
Right.
This is what for this week, I just need you guys not to do one thing.
Right.
Avoid this. Don't do this one thing. But then, like you said, they made the announcement. Hey, listen, okay, if it happens during this week, then if there is a riot, then if there is looting, are we going to look for puppet masters in, or are we just going to say black people are being ignorant black people? We're not going to talk about how, once again, this thing is continuing.
Right. No, I get it. Absolutely. And that's what makes it. And that's what makes it frustrating for a lot of people, right? It's just, listen, everybody says, well, if you comply, chances are, right? If you comply, chances are this.
Well, if you're going to play the odds, I would probably play the odd on complying. It's just the probability. That's the odds I would play rather than the odds of running or becoming volatile. But that's just me.
Definitely play the odds for complying. I comply, right? And I always tell everyone else that I know to comply. But like Sal said, if they're out to get you, they're out to get you. I confuse a taser that weighs different, looks different, feels different, and on the wrong side of my body. I confuse it, and it's justified. So then my question becomes, is it really training? If there's a system in place that will cover you, whether you have the best training in the world or the worst training in the world, we're going to coach you on how to get away with these things that you're doing to people.
Right.
I'm not even necessarily sure if the training, the funding, whatever is going to matter, if there's a system in place to get you out of what you're doing when you shouldn't be doing it.
Right. So the question is with the Dante is, do we have has the dash cam and the body cam for the arresting officer been released?
I think it has.
What I saw was hers.
There's 20 minutes of footage. That's how long this altercation took place.
Okay.
I would have to go hunt and find that, but there is 20 minutes, the total 20-minute time frame of footage.
Because that's all I saw was from the point of taser, pop.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
There's actually quite a lot that leads up to that. There's 20 minutes. There is quite an altercation. There was no compliance, or he played the wrong odds, which sucks.
And the arresting officer was African American.
Right.
The shooting officer was not.
No.
Well, so why wasn't the guy up close? Again, not a police officer, never been trained for one. I haven't even been in the military. Why didn't he have his taser? I don't know.
I mean, you could negate this entire conversation, Kent, and just as you suggested earlier, I think that was when we were in the green room, room with all the greenery in it, the foliage. And when you said, by and large, our police situation is not necessarily constitutional.
Correct.
So we could simply negate all these discussions and they could go ahead and defund anything and everything. We can go back to what we certainly have right now, which is the Second Amendment. In many states, many more adding very regularly, constitutional carry, open carry, and we can just deal with this ourselves.
Right.
And negate it all. I've found that the states that have constitutional open carry, I've found those people and those environments to be phenomenally, overly, incredibly, intentionally polite.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's terrible. It's horrible. And until we start looking for solutions,
Right.
it ain't going to change.
No.
But-
Right.
To your question regarding, or to your comment regarding why didn't the arresting officer pull out his taser? Well, he's a trainee. He was being trained.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't know how to react to these situations. I'm not speaking for him, but that's what I'm thinking. He's new, he does. This is maybe his first event or circumstance where somebody's going to flee from him. Maybe it'd be his first event of just stopping somebody. We don't know. He doesn't know how to react. She came in. I don't know why she was coming in if he was already handcuffing her. Why does she have to come into that? We don't know. There's so many questions that can be raised.
Right. That's why I'm saying. I mean, and in both cases, the Chicago shooting and this one, you heard quote unquote remorse right away from both. Right. I mean, the police officer who shot the 13-year-old rushed over there and did his best. He shot him right through the heart. I mean, kid spitting up blood. It was 15 seconds, and the life is gone. I mean, that didn't take much.
No.
And these are human beings too, right? I don't know their background. I really don't. But I don't think people wake up unless most people. Let me just say that. In my opinion, I don't think most people wake up going, "I'm going to kill somebody today."
No, they don't.
Right. And it's tough. I mean, and from a white guy's perspective, I mean, it's tough. Let me tell you, when I had a gun pointed at my head at point blank range, I complied real quick. And he was a bad guy, right? I was involved in a bank robbery when I was managing banks for Amcor. And guess what? I had a gun from Pete, me to you. That's point blank range, pointed right at my head. Said, if you want to live today, get out on the ground. Guess what I did? I got my ass on the ground, right? And I lived, right? But I looked at that guy. I could see in his eyes that he was scared to death. He could see that I was scared to death because, hell, I became transparent. I mean, you want to talk a white. My ass turned white, right? And so the interesting thing is that's saved my life, perhaps. Now, if I would have ran at him, tried to tackle him or something like that, maybe I wouldn't be here today. But I was like, oh, shit.
Right.
Let me just. It may smell like poop right now, folks, but I'm going to lay down. But
that cleans up relatively a lot easier than blood. So
Shana says sometimes I think if people feel safe, they aren't as reactive, and if they open carry, they are aware of both the legal and emotional toll of using it. So that's interesting because Derek, who runs the Bare Facts on Guns here, he will say that I am responsible not for what's at the end of my gun, but what's at the end of that bullet.
Right.
So he says, if I'm in a grocery store and it's being held up and I choose to pull my weapon and say, drop it, I'm going to shoot. And when I push that trigger, if that guy moves and there's a 13-year-old standing behind that guy and I kill that 13-year-old, I'm responsible for that.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people may forget that. Police officers may, they may not. There had to have been a time in that whole transaction with Dante where as a 26-year-old veteran, I know the difference between grips of a gun and of a taser.
Right.
There had to be. At some point in your mind goes, huh, this doesn't feel like a taser. There had to be. And I didn't correct that, all right? Whatever the case may be, right? And whoops. So I mean, it's sad. It's sickening. And things need to change. Simple as that.
Definitely.
And you're at time,
Wow.
gentlemen.
Man,
That was a quick hour.
that was.
Definitely was a quick hour.
Sal, I appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry for monopolizing.
No, that's you like to hear yourself talk, so I love it.
No,
I get it. Sal and I are buddies from way back. It's all good. I love him. I wouldn't have asked you to come on if I didn't think it was important. So it's really good.
Thank you.
Stick around, guys. Hang on. We're going to end this broadcast today, 3:30. Come back for Ask a Bookkeeper with Steph Conley, where she'll have guest Tim Santos with her, and they'll be talking about stuff, bookkeeping stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
A much lighter topic.
Yeah, much later. All right. Don't go anywhere, guys.